stars, the budding entrepreneurs from the crypto space come and share their journey, inspire you in more ways than one. And today we have Zhou of SkyeKiwi, who's made quite a mark with his top spot, at the Polka Dot Hackathon. I think he's made his presence felt out there, and because of that, we chose to invite him to be a part of the community and share his journey, his thoughts, what excites him about the space, and more interesting things around that today. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me, actually.
Likewise, some blockchain India is about generally inviting people who are pro decentralization, pro blockchain. They really believe in Web3 crypto on top of blockchain as an underneath technology. There is so much potential for transforming society itself, right? And I'm sure you also got into the blockchain space for the same reason. But I would love for you to dive in a little bit about your past background and how you got pulled into the blockchain space.
So I have been working as with venture capitals for quite some time, over the past 3-4 years. And then in the middle of it, kind of, I think it's 2017 when I reshifted into blockchain focus. Back then, when there was a ICO craze that draw me into the industry. I'm technical at the very core, so I start, learning the tech alongside with, learn about the crypto itself. That's basically how I got in.
That's amazing. And this was which year you mentioned, Song?
It was 2017, the ICO craze.
Wow. Wow. So that means you've seen two bull runs now.
Yep, yep.
And where
And
was, please go ahead.
a little bit of a tiny boost in the middle. It was ICO craze, then there was the EOS craze, and now it start to turn into the DeFi craze.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not to forget about DAOs. I think that's the upcoming trend. I think everybody is excited about DAOs. I particularly have been following it for a while, but yeah, I mean, I think there are so many, shifts that are happening, within a small period of time in the crypto space. But, what really is that one point, if you would say that, got you to start off in this space? Because that's quite a lot of commitment.
I mean, it's kind of natural for me. When you like, I haven't realized so, but when I realized that I have been working in the blockchain space, then there I am.
So it just resonated with you, on a deeper level. Maybe the idea of decentralization or the core aspects of privacy, or just how data was being used in the web world. I think probably all those points were a natural transition for you, from where you were to the blockchain space.
It was, I guess, when I started to think about decentralization, it was really a long time ago. Back
Hmm.
to when I was, I guess, in high school. There was a summer I spent in the Silicon Valley, and then there was this guy who brought me to this idea that they leverage a bunch of machines at Stanford to do a wide range library research. Like they can search a building of books within seconds to search for a single phrase, and I thought it was extremely cool. That's when also the Bitcoin started to take off a little bit back then, but not too much.
Hmm. Oh, that's amazing. So, I think we have another common point. I was working out of Tim Draper's incubator back in 2015, building a live streaming company. So I was in the valley as well, and I think that's where I sort of absorbed the ideas of decentralization, and how generally the world was moving, with leadership taken in from the big techs, and what was important to be focused upon. So I think I quite relate to you on that. I would then want to learn a bit about SkyeKiwi. What is it about, and what excites you to do it?
So it was so we somehow stumbled kind of walk into the door of the Polka ecosystem, then it was last December, about Christmas time, when we were, you know, a little bit bored, and then start to think about stuff. And then there was this idea coming to us, like the worst thing you can think of to put on a blockchain. What if you can put password managers onto blockchain? That's
Mm-hmm.
when we start to think about the very initial shape of SkyeKiwi. Then we submit the Web3 Foundation grant.
Mm-hmm.
Had lots of interactions with the Web3 team to discuss what can be done with the password manager and how is that going to be secure.
Mm-hmm.
So later on, about 1 or 2 months later, we took the project, it's called SkyPass, it's a password manager, to a hackathon also organized with Parity Asia. It was in China, but we present remotely. So after that hackathon, we got quite a lot of positive feedback onto what we are trying to build,
Mm-hmm.
and lots of people encourage us to just take the core technology out and build that into a real project, a real product instead of just a password manager.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did. That's what we have been working on for the past 3-4 months. We extract the technology out, build that into something called the SkyeKiwi protocol, which is essentially a client-side library to take any file of any size, of any type, from your laptop, from your computer to the cloud, to the public internet, securely, and you can share it with your designate recipients, and only the recipients, they are able to decrypt that.
That's awesome because back in 2017, I saw a company called BitClave. It had the cat token CAT, which went around the same problem. And if you look at Blockstack, on a very base level, they were hitting at the problem of giving the control of data back to the Web3 users, and that's something that was also pointed out by Tim Berners-Lee before he ventured into his own product called Solid, which was kind of a new internet, an evolved internet, right? And all of it was around the base ideology that your I mean, just the idea of your data being in your ownership. And I think that has a seed in your application as well. Would you want to talk a little bit about that if you feel strongly about it at all?
Yeah, I think password manager and lots of other things. We can talk about a bunch of use cases we are thinking of, but this capacity of sharing a file of data of any size, of any type, to people is basically the core thing of how the internet operates these days. And we want to bring that capacity to the Web3 in a better, more decentralized way. So for instance, if we talk about fiat currency payment or fiat on ramp in the crypto space, it's essentially the same. There is a kind of a server, API server to interact with the bank APIs. It can be Stripe, Visa, MasterCard, etc. And the user just need to send their bank information securely to the server somehow. And that's one of the things we want to build. So after we can build a blockchain on top of that to enable this kind of information to be processed and saved on the blockchain securely, then we can essentially do a smart contract to do the fiat on ramp very, very easily.
Mhm. That's quite interesting. I definitely resonate with that thought as well. Again, I think it is quite a core if you look at from your ideology as well to how we could add more value to the existing internet. Do you see the protocol interacting with some immediate applications that are already built out there, or do what are some of your thoughts about interacting with other applications that match your ideology?
So first of all, that's the best thing of working in the Polka ecosystem. We got to interact with a lot of other teams. So for now, Cross Network in the Polka system handles all of our storage. Their people are also very core advisors for us. They assist us, they sponsor us for the development of the front end protocol. Then there is latency. For those who don't know, they are the identity aggregator in the POC ecosystem. Also very good tech. And they offer lots of the technical advice through down the road. There's also Moonbeam, who is one of the first project we're gonna deploy our smart contract onto. They were able to break us a deal to work with Biconomy at a discount price, which is very, very good. That's gonna help, earlier user on ramp very easily.
That's quite cool. I think you're interacting in a lot of ways with entrepreneurs that have some sort of I would say foot in India as well, because Aniket from Bioeconomy, is kind of a rising star himself. He's pushing the right ideas even in the Indian ecosystem, and it's great to see that you're interacting with them. But yeah, I think for everyone else, Polkadot is something that's very exciting, right? Zealand, and this was a bilateral delegation from India with the idea of exploring, how Switzerland is regulating crypto, and this was happening in 2019. I got a chance to go to the Web3 Foundation's HQ, right, in Switzerland, and it was phenomenal to understand how that vision of interoperability will get translated. But could you break down how interoperability sort of excites, because in your idea it's very fundamental as well. So how does interoperability play to your advantage in the coming times?
So first thing first, I think different different blockchain teams, they have different specialties. For us, we work on the cryptographic stuff. We build a lot of the infrastructure needed for the system, but we are not like that much into or specialized into, say, DeFi, of how to build a stablecoin, how to build a aggregator, DeFi aggregator, or we won't be specialized into how to build a storage network. That means the Web3 vision is very large, and it's very hard to be done by just one team or a few teams. So in fact, the POC ecosystem enable all these teams to work together really well, very seamlessly. So that's going to be very fundamental to how the Web3 vision can be realized.
Absolutely. I think it's all about the ecosystem. One thing that we've learned from the Indian story, or the Indian ecosystem evolving as well. Because if you see, the first 100, crypto startups that have come out are helping each other more intricately. If you compare the first, 100, Web2 startups from India, right? And things here are more about collaborating than creating your own territory. And I think it sort of takes up the open innovation vision, kind of building as Legos, one on top of the other. So that's quite exciting to see. I think even in this space, it just accelerates the amount of innovation that's happening. And interestingly, you pointed out how when you look at DeFi, there's so much to take care of that if you're going after one problem, you don't want to look at building a currency, managing liquidity, and 100 things. And that's why an ecosystem like Polkadot can be super useful. And hence it's wonderful to see that you're sort of you've made your mark there, you've gotten the right attention, and everybody is supporting you to grow from there. Song, what do you see as your go-to market, or your first touch point with Web3 users? Is there a particular dApp that you want to start with? And yeah, how can people in the community sort of be a part of that process?
So so first of all, our secret sharing protocol gonna come with two phases. For the first phase, which is the phase we have right now, the protocol is gonna interact with one public smart contract on a public chain to store the secrets, to do anything with it. But the thing is that it's very hard to change the secret, to process the secret very efficiently on a public blockchain infrastructure. I can give a simple example to demonstrate that. For instance, we are capable of building a NFT platform when
Mm-hmm.
the actual content of the NFTs can be masked. For instance, when
Mm-hmm.
a music producer is releasing a 5 minutes track, they can publish the 30 seconds preview version of that and mask the main content from the public, so that only the purchaser or some subscribers following some rules in the smart contract are able to decrypt the actual content to realize real ownership of the music. But in able to do that, imagine if there's a smart contract, say, taking $10 from a person, then you should release the music automatically. But that won't be able to realize without the owner actually interfere with that. It's because the smart contract doesn't know the secret. It's only the own like it's against the point of having a secret. So that's why it's very hard to do that right now. There are some hacky trick we can do, but I won't see that as ideal. So the first product we are launching is one that doesn't gonna require such capacity because of a cryptographic trick.
Oh.
Um, Without diving too deep into how the cryptographic work in SkyeKiwi, the general idea, one of the ideas we got from this is so initially the file is going to be sealed with a symmetric encryption mechanism, and then it's a 32 bytes key, which can be used for both symmetric encryptions and asymmetric private key. So that's kind of the trick we took. So when someone is creating a file, they can associate a public identity of the file derived from the sealing key. So whenever someone is proving that they have the secret key of that public key, that means they 100% have the file. They are able to read the file.
Mm-hmm.
So we use this property to build a decentralized document signing platform. It's a decentralized DocuSign alternative, and that's the first product we're gonna launch. So it's like the implementation is very simple and minimized after we have realized that we have implemented the SkyeKiwi protocol. Essentially, just 30 lines of smart contract code. One function is to publish the contract, write two files into the storage, and then one to do a simple EC recover to do a cryptographic recovery, and then that's it. It's sufficient to do a it's sufficient and very efficient to do a contract signing with that.
That's quite exciting, and so I think definitely something that while signing agreements we thought about. I think decentralized DocuSign, was, as a user, is an application that I would definitely use, and being an early adopter of something in the decentralized space. I think a user directly right there. But also, what's exciting is about the decentralized music video, and a snippet of it, with the whole thing being masked away, and just the appropriate teaser or a sneak peek, if you will, to the audience. I think that's phenomenal, because what will happen is then the teasers audience does not have to be separate from that of the main video's audience, right? And if I've seen the video, I'm most probably interested in what's next to come, right? So I become a very relevant follow on for the main video as well. And I think that's going to happen across teasers, across music, across any kind of documentaries, probably movies. If I've seen something from the, I think subscription already works, but if there's like, so for example, I run a podcast series called Society 3.0, and if I've post like one small snippet of one episode, it could probably also direct to the other content that I've already owned and want to push to my audience. I think it's quite exciting what you're building, and it's also great to see that polka music came out of the same hackathon. And I think there's amazing synergies between the two projects, or the two amazing visions. What do you think about that? Do you think in some point down the lane that's also a possibility?
Yeah, man. Sure, absolutely. We haven't talked with them yet, but yeah, that would be awesome. There's there's one thing that we thought of doing NFT things. Well, the thing is that we have very limited capacity of doing everything, but doing NFTs is definitely one of the things we want to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's this idea of creating a a more creator centric scene of an NFT platform, which can be applied by any teams. I'm just giving an idea that anyone can implement. So essentially, after you can efficiently encrypt the actual content of a piece of art, essentially you can create a paywall around that. So only
Mm-hmm.
subscribers or people who pay in some ways or stake in some ways, they are able to get access to it. So we start to think about how we can integrate DeFi into it in any ways. And then we start to think about what if imagine there's a pool structure, and then the initial creator is gonna stake some of the platform token into it. And then when someone come later, a portion of it, say 5%, 10% of it, gonna be forward to existing pool owners to get access to the content of the NFTs produced by this creator, and also give them, they are able to place bid onto the private content, the fans only content of the creator. So this sounds cool, right? And then we start running some
Absolutely.
simulations, and it seems like after about 100 followers and maybe two or three, up to 10 pieces sold, the owner, by tweaking the parameters, the owner can make about 10 times the return of the initial stake. And the user is going to have a natural incentive to market for the users, so they can make some economic income as well. And the early staker, they can make two or three times. Even the latecomers, they can make a bid after, when you get more people into the scene to market
Mm-hmm.
for this creator. Um, so yeah, I wish we have a very large team so we can do everything, but
No, so, I mean another way of doing it, and this is something that's a little common in the Web3 space, so you might already relate to it. So we saw, one of our, so we run a cohort called 100 Days of Code, and we saw about 10 startups come out of it. The top startup is called Connexy, and that got some grants, I think about 7.5 thousand USD, right, to build out their first version of the product. And this is just last 10 days, so we haven't yet made the announcement in the form of, like a blog or something. But I think they're building, something that's more related to token gating, but on the base level, right? And that's where a lot of people are playing. But again, content seeding. So, for example, so many of us are spending so much time over Netflix these days, right? Or Amazon Prime or whatever versions of these streaming channels, or these streaming platforms. And there are so many series that do not get follow-ons, right? And we were seeing that this content or these series that people want to watch, right? I think there is one series called Beowulf that I was very interested in, with my sort of angle into war theatricals or war dramas. So I think if someone would give me an opportunity to pool in money to seed, let's say, the next 5 episodes, and I could probably, because I'm seeding that one, I am actually paying for my viewing right in advance. But also, what I could do is, get a share into that success, right? And that's exactly what you pointed out. So I relate so much to that idea, and probably this startup can, sort of evolve from what they're building to, sort of this use case that is so close to your heart. I think I'll probably love to connect you with these guys as well, post the call. Let's see, if you can guide them, or they can, sort of collaborate with you in some way. But I think that's how Web3 works, right? These common
yeah, man.
ideas, that you can, kind of be a part of as a success as well. But you're only contributing to a small piece, maybe through mentorship, maybe through guidance, right? And so this is amazing to see, just that idea of giving it to people as opportunities, right? And that's kind of paid forward to the whole space, and that's why I think so highly about the Web3 movement itself. Again, since we're talking about these giving out ideas or seeding some synergical points of work, what would you suggest to let's say people who have not found their ikigai yet in the Web3 space? What are the trends to look at, and how do you get involved, let's say DeFi, or the more exciting things that you like today?
So I mean, for on the surface level, there are lots of media outlets, and then
Mm-hmm.
on the deeper level, there is the Web3 Foundation grant page you can always
Mm-hmm.
look at. It's amazing. It's very fascinating to just read through applications of users. There are lots of exciting things coming out of them. I think uh, damn, I can't think of any out of my on the top of my head. I haven't keeping pace for quite some time, but it's a very fascinating. It's almost like a a series to watch in that sense to just read through the applications of that GitHub repository.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I completely agree with you on that. I remember there was I'm forgetting the name of the project, but there was this project. We were looking at learning models. About a year ago, and we saw an A16Z crypto fund backed startup that was sort of seeding ideas that were around creating learning paths for people. So, for example, if somebody wants to learn chain, how do they go about things, right? They could see that naturally on the Web3 there are traces of people who have moved to building their own startups, having started by reading, let's say, a particular piece of article by someone that seems like, for example, Balaji Srinivasan, who feels very strongly about value in the Web3 space, right? And I think that whole channel, if those traces can be drawn for multiple users, you could efficiently figure out a way to learn for all people who are beginners into the blockchain world, right? So I think in that whole mechanism, I think that idea was great to see. And I think in the Web3 grant page, we could find probably hundreds of ideas like these that deserve. And, I mean, you were an example right here, right? The kind of ideas that will make their mark out there once their visions have been realized, it would be so much, impactful. But, people would be so exciting. They'd be waiting for some of these ideas to happen, right? I'm already excited about when SkyeKiwi is going to launch something that I can use, right? And decentralized DocuSign is sort of something that I relate to, so I'll be waiting for it. And similarly, people who go through it, if nothing, they can figure out what are the things that are going to come in the future, and they can stay tuned to it. But again, I think something that I would want to give out as as I mentioned, decentralized autonomous organizations are a great way, or are probably becoming a trend, because we see a lot of people talking about decentralized networks, but very few have really decentralized it. And I do understand that there's this process of consciously decentralizing from a small team to a bigger community. But I think over the time, I feel that there are so many new things coming in. I remember talking to Louis from Aragon, I think a couple of years back, and understanding his vision of decentralized governance, right? So I keep advising people to go and follow some bits about the governance as a whole movement, right? Do you think there is something that excites you, or in your past journey, what was that one defining step that got you to move ahead in the right direction in terms of your knowledge base about crypto or blockchain?
That's lots of questions. So I want to first talk about the decentralized the DAO first.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I think DAO is a very fine abstractions of how collections of people working together, and it's going to be one of the core design, a very critical part of the blockchain we're going to build. So mm, I guess one of the most exciting DAO for me right now is the they call Martel Cartel. The It's a decentralized venture capital, and it's extremely cool. I Yeah, I'm very intrigued by their idea. And by I was talking about the DAO was very important to our blockchains because whenever someone is having a secret on the blockchain, you want that secret to be used by others in a weird
Hmm.
way. Like for instance, you are like we mentioned earlier, if we build a smart contract to do fiat on ramp, anyone there can be a database where user consent to for the secret to be stored there for 3 days, 6 days, 6 months ish, their credit card informations before they expire and self delete themselves. Other
Mm-hmm.
people can call these APIs to make transactions to basically as a, the Coinbase on the blockchain. And how the people who create this stuff going to be paid. Our idea is that the secret is going to be owned by a DAO structure, and they can define their own rules of how they're supposed to, when there's an income to the organization, how it's supposed to be paid out to all the members. When someone is placing an order, kind of making an interaction with a smart contract that will do the fiat on for you, then the portion of the fee, maybe a majority of it will go to the people who actually process the transactions, which are the blockchain nodes. But the rest of it should flow to the DAO, where they actually build out the community for people to use. They build out the technical component of it, and they're supposed to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just a very simple example to give of how DAO is going to play an important part for for the blockchain we're going to build.
Mm-hmm.
As of how people get involved, learn about blockchain, I would suggest to just get hands dirty and start working on projects is possibly the best way ever. I'm I'm not from I wasn't trained from a technical perspective. I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in philosophy in college, so it's not
Wow.
actually that hard. I mean, it's just if you just read some demos, follow the tutorials to get started with Solidity and such. And it's actually very easy. After alongside when you just bump into some problems and then you start to solving them, it's far more effective than just read tons of tutorials, read tons of stuff of how the blockchain works, articles talking about the Web3 vision before you have actually a skin in the game to start working on stuff.
Absolutely, and we had one of our Facebook viewers, Venkat, thinking that he's the only one watching, but just wanted to highlight Venkat that we have about six different forums that are channeling in, and there are other members across channels, across forums that are viewing the thoughts, and again even later we're going to share it with our community members, and they'll be able to see it at their ease, but it's lovely to see song that you come from a space that's not so technical at first, right? And I mean, I think if you relate it to the likes, um, a lot of people from the kind of the psychology background are doing great in terms of pushing these tech products because they understand users, right? And I think that's something that's been missing on the protocol level or in the Web3 space with a DApp level as well, right? So I think that's fundamental. If we all think about how it's easy to get this viewership or usership from people easily, right? That ease of use is definitely what's going to push us towards mass adoption, and that's why we need more people like you to come in. And it's great to see that you do not feel that there are so many blockages in understanding, and it's kind of like a smooth path through, right? So just quite fascinating, and this inspires me to invite more of our community members, because we keep hearing song from them that they're not from the technical space so much, but they still want to get started in this space because this seems to present a huge opportunity, right?
There's one thing I want to chip in a little bit. It's a common. I'm not sure if it's a common thing, but it seems like lots of people are thinking that Web3 is harder to do the technical side than the Web2 world. I think it's
Hmm.
quite the opposite. It's easier to work with the technical side of Web3 than Web2. You don't need
Yeah.
to worry too much of the infrastructure. No worry about the, you can just write a smart contract in overnight and deploy that, and that can be a real thing, instead of
Hmm.
worry about all the servers you're gonna have, the networking, the how to how a decentralized system gonna operate.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
so
I
you.
would encourage anyone
Mhm.
interested in to just dive into the technical side. It's not that hard.
Sure, sure. And where should they start? What would be probably the easiest way to learn about technical aspects?
Just start to think about a simple project.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I guess the first thing I have done with smart contract was a very dummy thing. For a online event, there can be a check-in app when there will be a randomly QR code popping up on the screen. And when you scan
Uh-huh.
it, it's gonna, you're gonna come to a page that you can claim some token from the organizer. And later on, you can redeem the tokens for, tickets to other events, or redeem it for some swags,
Mm-hmm.
etc. It's a very easy to build, and kind of, I'm saying that smaller project and kind of toy project like this would be a good place to start.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, one of our members, Deepak, just commented about, it's probably easier if they follow, probably Bitcoin at first, or, I mean, he seems to suggest that definitely there is a learning curve, right? Probably, I mean, I come from a technical background, right? So it was easier for me to understand. So probably, the might understand it from going through the white paper of Bitcoin, and probably then through, how smart contracting languages work, then, going in from there, probably the use cases, like I remember Steemit being one of the earliest use cases of a decentralized social media platform, right? Where we could push our, articles or thoughts, and then we could, in terms of how many people viewed it, we could get, rewards around it. Or, another application is Brave. I think most of us in the crypto space use it. um, I remember some figures around 1.5 million people joining every month onto the Brave browser. But one feature that I really liked was the one of tipping. Since your wallet is connected to the browser, whenever you see a particular piece of content, you could just tip it, right? So, for example, you're watching Twitter, by going through sort of your feed on Twitter, and you like, let's say, Songzo's thoughts on decentralized storage, right? Or secret keeping. And I, as someone that really resonated with it, could probably do more than a like and a comment, or a retweet. I could tip for just that thought that song shared. So, I mean, those applications could be great point for also users to start. If not really build something, try and test out the limited few products that are available to everyone. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Uh, I mean, the first step is to just get into the system to learn how to manage a wallet, and then it's gonna come much and much easier for you when you explore what the ecosystem can do. It's a fascinating crowd building lots of fascinating products.
Absolutely, and I think something that I really relate to is also these, the concept of synthetic assets, right? So for example, living in India, I there are something that I can't be a part of. Or look at real estate; it's not as liquid as it could be, right? We have marketplaces wherein we could buy anything in like 5 minutes, but why can't that be for real estate? Right? And there could be experiments that reduce the amount of time that it takes for handovers for, let's say, retail properties. Or let's say, if I wanted to buy, being in India, I wanted to have ownership in Tesla. I mean, do not blame me for including Tesla. I think the crypto space is a little upset with Elon Musk's comment. I'm not sure, I don't want that to be taken against me, but the idea is that in India, sitting here, I could still own, Tesla stock if that was, sort of ported onto a blockchain. And, there are some experiments there. Again, one of the key things that was, there in ICOs, that is there in IDOs, and that's there in, let's say, meta cartel as well, is democratizing the whole VC process. Why can't you invest in, as a retail investor, into the success of companies early on? I mean, you definitely need to understand that there's more risk, but meta cartel and all of these decentralized funding ecosystems give you an opportunity to be a part of, let's say, SkyeKiwi, if it ever does a fundraise through the public in the form of tokens, right? So again, I think those are some beautiful examples. There are these launch pads that are offering equities, or kind of at the point of public offerings, kind of not really equities but tokens, right, that give you some share of the success. I think those are wonderful ways to make value as well.
There's since because you mentioned real world asset, there's actually a blockchain in the Polkadot ecosystem, one of the OG chain, but
Mhm.
unfortunately their name just slipped out of my head. Do you happen to know which one I'm talking about? Like they offer, like one of the core thing they do is to do real world asset on the blockchain.
No,
Is
not
it?
really. I'm not able to recall that yet. I do remember that, the experimental chain Kusama being one of the great hits, but I do not particularly remember about, the real world assets onto the blockchain through the Polkadot ecosystem.
I'm 100% positive there's one chain that specializes in doing so. I think they have already sold some houses, sold some bonds on their blockchain, and it's been pretty cool. You can I think you can find them on the Polkadot the network of all the ecosystem projects.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so I think since you've taken this time song for us and the community, we would like to give you one ask, right? It could be anything that you would want from the community. It could be a little bit of love onto your social handles. It could be, just propagating, the idea of what Sky Kiwi is trying to, do. What would be your one ask, or, probably one way that people can get involved in SkyeKiwi?
Can I have two?
Yes, yes, go for it. Go for it.
So first thing is that we are actively hiring engineers. Um, it's yeah, from either blockchain engineers, web engineers. We are hiring all of them. Email can
Uh-huh.
be found on our website.
Okay.
Second thing is that we are launching the Kiwi Sign product, and we want to invite some of the early beta testers
Hmm.
to get on board.
Awesome. I think I'm going to be one of your beta testers for sure, and I'll ask everyone to show some love. Give some positive feedback into how the product is working, or how could it improve, or some things that you really like. When is that product going to come out? Sky Kiwis. You said Sky.gen.
Sorry, say that again.
What was the name of the product that you mentioned?
It's called Kiwi Sign. So, Sky
Kiwi
Kiwi
Sign.
is
Okay.
Kiwi plus signing
Sign.
Kiwi Sign.
Okay. Okay.
It should come out within the next 4 weeks, ideally 3 weeks.
Okay.
Depends on the
Awesome.
workload we have.
Awesome. And then where do we sign up for, being one of the early testers or adopters?
I would say I would possibly hold some kind of info session ish of it in the in our Telegram group.
Okay. Okay. So then, I would recommend, our community members to join Sky Kiwi's Telegram group. I will be doing that. So, come alongside me to support Song and his team over the amazing work that they're doing. I think they're definitely making Web3 better for us, and just the idea of Web3 getting realized is exciting, right? And again, blockchain engineers is what Song is, looking to collaborate with. So, go to their website, hit them up. There is an email, as you mentioned. Could you also share that email, um, Song, if you remember it off the top of your hat?
The sorry, say that again. Which
The
email?
the email wherein blockchain engineers could hit up.
Uh,
If
the email that block. Sorry, man. It's early morning for me, and it's been it's been 10 o'clock. My mind is not working.
No worries, no
Um,
worries. I was just saying, where could blockchain engineers apply? Is there an email that people can shoot out to?
to us,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hello at SkyeKiwi. Hello at skye.kiwi.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think so. Everyone, you can reach out to Song and his team at SkyeKiwi. That's SkyeKiwi dot com. Is that
No, it's
uh,
just skye.kiwi. We have a very
okay?
unique top level domain, which is called Kiwi.
Awesome, awesome. So that's hello at sky.kiwi, SKYE, and Kiwi is KIWI. Thank you so much, Song, for taking out the time. I think this has been a phenomenal conversation. I think you've, at least to me, you have made me remember in a lot of ways why I entered this space, right? And it's just promising to see young talent and teams like yours, building such impactful things. I'd love to be a part, and Blockchain India would definitely do its bit to support you and the further launches that SkyeKiwi comes up with.
Sounds awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Likewise, it's a pleasure. Bye bye, Song. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.